welcome everybody to a new episode of the Bleeding Metal podcast. I am Kiki, she, her, and I am here with my co-host.
My name is Pia, she, her, and I want to put a disclaimer here because in this episode we're talking about sexual violence and other kinds of violence. So if you're sensitive about these topics, you should maybe better skip this episode, go back to one of our older episodes, or wait until we have another episode out there with topics that you're not sensitive to.
And we also have another guest today with us to talk about an interesting subject. Do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, of course. Hi, I'm Jenny, and also she, her. And yes, what I'm doing is I'm a vocalist at the moment without a band, but yeah, I really love to be on stage and shout and scream. So this is my passion. And yeah, I have another video live talk channel on Instagram. It's called von Batman bis Meerjungfrau in German, so it's only German. Yeah, where we talk about women in metal.
Hell yeah, that's our favorite topic. Around which we've done everything for the past almost 10 years, Pia. Oh my gosh, time goes by too fast. Whoop whoop indeed. Yes, and today we are going to talk about a topic that's not too far away from the women in metal, and has been a big discussion not only in metal and in music business, but in the entertainment industry for a few years now, which is separating art from the artist. I think we have all been very aware of how many cases of abuse the Me Too movement, voiced, discovered, gave attention to, and from that, with the whole phenomenon of cancel culture, has come as well the discussion around the question if we can separate loving some art while we don't like or dislike the individual who made it. And that is the question which we will be discussing today.
I'm interested if you separate or what your opinion is on this topic. If you stop listening to an artist, if you know that person did something that you really can't support.
Jenny, do you want to go first, maybe? Or is our guest of honor?
Yeah, of course. Yes, I have made very much thoughts about this topic because I have one band which name I didn't get anymore, but it's a very famous metal band where the fronter did violence to his wife. You know what I mean, I think, or who I mean, and that's why I have decided to boycott these bands or this band. Whether they are doing great music, and I think from the side of how good or how qualitative the music is, you can separate it, I think, but I don't. I cannot do this because I think as a band member, you have some Um, you just have to be aware of what you're doing because you're someone many people are looking up to, and so if you're not safe with this, and if you're doing things and you know it's wrong and you just give a shit about it, that's not the thing for me to be in a band or to be a musician. So you have so much to do and so much to show that you're a good person and go with a good example forward. And so I take this over the music.
How about you, Kiki?
I think it's been, for me, a whole process. and it started with movies, because, well, the film industry, and more specifically Hollywood, was a bit more of the place, so to speak, where these scandals were first happening. Well, not happening, but where we were talking more about them. And I think then it was easier to just, there are just these films made by these specific people, which I don't want to watch anymore. But music is much more intertwined in my life, or well, I hear much more music than I watch films or shows. Talking about films, there was this website where you could put in a movie title and it would tell you, instead of, the Rotten Tomatoes thing, like how many people thought it was good or it was bad, there was there were the results told you if the people involved had any either legal process against them going on against them, or if there were any allegations of abuse or assault or harassment or whatever. So that was kind of helpful.
That's really good because in a band, it's quite easy because there are only a few members. But there are so many people involved in a movie, and especially when it's the regisseur, when it's a person in the background who has still a lot of power in the movie, you don't know that when you just read the title of the film. So that's a very good database, or a
Yeah,
very
it was
good.
a very good tool, and sadly I'm not finding anything like quickly on Google, but I will remember and or research, and I shall put the name of the website in the description. That was the one thing. And later, there were all these, all of these other cases started coming up, all also related to the music industry. And I think that's where I started trying to find, or trying to actually do this, of separating this creation, or this creative project that someone has, even though the creator themselves are not exactly good people. And for me, I think one of the biggest cases, the biggest person that brought that to my attention is Marilyn Manson, actually. That is very, or the allegations against him are very recent. um I think that all came up like a year ago, maybe. And that was the moment where I really thought, I have liked his music for so long, and I still like listening to some of it. I even think that his most recent albums are kind of good. Seeing him live was a huge disappointment, but then learning that his behavior as a person and as a human being was pretty shitty was actually disappointing. And I didn't want to support his career anymore,
Mhm.
while at the same time I still wanted to be able to enjoy his previous works. So that was like the first time I really had to think about it, and I really had to make a conscious decision about this kind of separation, because I am the kind of person that will usually want to know more about the people behind the art. I usually want to understand the lyrics. I usually want to make my interpretation about what inspired this person to write this song or to write these lyrics. And that was the first time that I had actually a conflict.
Yeah, I can totally understand this because, you know, if someone is doing art and the one is doing great art, great music, like great lyrics or something like this, and behind it, there is a person which is, yeah, very a bad person, and you this is someone you don't want to have in your life. And music is something which I would say touches me, because it's a very important thing. I'm listening very much to music, like you said, and if there's someone toxic behind, I don't want to have this in my life.
Yeah, exactly. And that's also, I know, Kiki, that you're a big fan of Marilyn Manson. And so, yeah, maybe you want to go a bit deeper into this relationship to his music that you have now. When you listen to the music, do you have these allegations in mind, or can you completely separate that?
That's a very good question. I think my liking of his music is a little bit more nostalgia based. Even though, as I said, I have listened to his most recent, I don't know even if most recent, let me look that up, because I actually stopped actively following his work. That I have to say. His music does come up in my older playlists.
Yep.
And well, I did listen to the 2014 and 2017 albums, and I thought those were great. And after that, I mean, last year, I just didn't pay attention anymore. But and so I don't have that kind of disconnect. I don't have that bitter aftertaste or something when I'm listening to him, because now I know what he's done. But um, uh, I cannot say how it's going to be in the future. Now that you say that,
Mm,
I remember now. The database that I was talking about is called Rotten Apples. And it is a searchable database that lets you know whether or not a film or television show is tied to a person who has been accused of sexual misconduct. And it's been around for quite a few years now, since 2017, at least. And well, I'm gonna link it in the description, but you can visit the website at therottenapple.es. So the rotten apples.
Nice. Thank you.
very nice tool. Thank you.
It is a very helpful tool, and it would be also really cool if there was a tool like that for music, as we were saying. Because Jenny, you were talking about, you also remembered, you remembered the name of the band that you are now actively not listening to because
Right.
of what has happened in their ranks.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a very famous band, like I mentioned before. So as I lie dying, so
Mm.
Tim Lambesis, the frontman, you know that he had attacked or tried to attack his wife by
He
how
hired
is it?
someone.
He hired someone. Yeah.
Yeah.
In German, we say Auftragskiller. I don't know the word in English because I never ordered someone like this. um, but yeah, this is absolutely an example for a band I don't want to listen to anymore, because there is a person
Hitman.
behind Hitman, right? There's a person behind. I just don't want to get closer to, you know.
Mm.
But wasn't he like, didn't he split out? Didn't he leave the band?
I don't know, because this was the point. I don't read or yeah, something about the band, because it was for me a total boycott. I think I read something that he joined again.
He is an active member of the band right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Damn.
he still is. And this is something I talked with so many people about, because, every time you go to a show of a band, this is support. You support the band. You're
Mm.
going through the concert. You listen. You buy some merch or something like this, and all the event managers which are inviting this band every time and again and again. I don't know if they don't also have some responsibility to yeah, not support it. And I don't
Mm.
know if they taken their role in this game serious. This is the question I have. Is the money more worth it than the life of the wife?
Mm. And also the other band members. So
Yeah.
even if they would have kicked him out, I don't know how you can be so close to someone for so many years and don't notice how this person really is. But I think that also happens in when you're married to someone you don't know this person 100%. So
Mm,
I would let that count maybe if they would have kicked him out and would have said, okay, we take his picture of every website and stuff like that and our social media accounts so that he disappears the most possible way. So his voice would still be in the music, of course, but yeah, they could have done something like this, but instead of that, they take him back as a singer. That is something where I also say, nope, I also cannot listen to this band anymore.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Agree.
According to Wikipedia, he did time in prison for it.
Mm,
So the whole process uh, came to that end. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison, of which he did 2, and then was released. Well, he did a number of years in prison, and that is part of a bigger discussion, I think, that also has a lot to do with cancel culture. But I think that people should be accountable for what they do and should face the facts, face the things that you've done,
yeah,
and take responsibility for your acts, do the time for your crime, so to speak, and also just deal with the consequences and not hide behind, I don't know, your fame or what your PR firm is doing for you, in these cases of famous people. So I don't follow the band very closely, so I have no idea how all that how they all found the resolution of taking him back as lead vocalist. But um well, I don't know.
For me, it's too much over the top. So we had also the situation with The Ghost Inside that the bassist was kicked out because he said something racist on a tour that was, I think, 5 years ago already. But he apologized for that and he said, yes, I made a mistake and I know I made this mistake and I learned from that. And
Mhm.
so they took him back as a member. And that's something where I can say, okay, you didn't hurt someone physically, you didn't try to kill someone, you didn't tell other people to kill someone. So
Yeah.
um, I don't want to say that he was just racist because you shouldn't also be racist, but that's something where you can learn from because I think he is also a white man and he grew up in a society where it's very difficult to not learn something racist, which you have to unlearn later. So I can
yeah,
totally understand that he learned something from that. So I believe that he really did. And then I can say, okay, I'm fine with the band taking him back as a band member.
yeah,
But
Mhm.
if somebody really wanted someone else to kill his wife, that's something where I don't know, you can't really apologize for that.
It
yeah,
crosses a line, yeah.
Hmm.
But that's also the thing. I think these lines are very personal. How we judge other people, up to which point we can, forgive their actions, even if we don't know them, even if we are not affected by their actions. But if they decide to face the consequences and go through a process of change, it's up to each of us to decide, what actions can be, forgiven and which not. I do agree, though, that was, it's a certain type of violence that does cross a line.
And I also think, or for me, it is important how much the music means to me.
Hmm.
Because, for example, I don't follow and I don't listen to Rammstein anymore. I never was a big Rammstein fan. But when Till Lindemann released this rape, um,
mm, track. Mm.
yeah, it wasn't even a song. He released a book.
Ah, yes, this was, yeah, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and one of the texts, one of the lyrics, do you say lyrics? Yeah, one of this,
Yeah,
the texts that were in this book was where he described that someone rapes someone else while that person sleeps. And that was the point for me where I said, okay, I can't listen to this music anymore. I don't follow the news about the band. That was something for me where I thought, why do you publish something like this? There is no necessity for that. And yeah, but for me, that was quite easy because I have never been a big fan of the music at all. So I don't know how I would have reacted if that was someone in one of my favorite bands, to be honest, because luckily that never happened to a band that I really, really love. But I think it would have affected me at least that I would not be able to enjoy the music, even though I might be still listening to the music. But to be honest, I really don't know. And I think you can only tell when you've been in the situation, like, yeah, the Marilyn Manson case with you, Kiki.
Yes, and I have kind of more controversial case for you. I don't know if you heard about these news, but this happened just this year, I think. Let me check. In March, early March of this year, um, the Australian metalcore band Make Them Suffer kicked out their
The keyboardist.
keyboardist and singer, Buka Nile. And I was a big fan of her and her voice. And I don't know how to feel, to be honest. Because she was kicked out after sexual assault allegations came up about her. And that all happened really, really quickly. So I will link the Lightwire article about her statement in the description as well. This doesn't happen that often, though, that a woman is accused of sexual assault.
Yeah.
No, it happens. Never denying that. As a feminist who has worked in prevention of violence against women, and most recently with an organization that offers legal help to women who have suffered mostly sexual violence against them. I do know that statistically, it's mostly the other way around. It's men that perpetrate these crimes against women, and this time it was a bit shocking because it was a woman in metal who was being accused of this. And I don't know if there is even an investigation going on, how much truth there is to it. It's also been only a month after after she put out this statement, at least saying goodbye to Make Them Suffer. But yeah, that actually did really just I don't know, I just shock me. And I haven't really gotten informed too much or looked into it too much. I have still listened to their music. I think I still have to go through that whole process.
I think she said it is true, and she wanted to make her ex-boyfriend jealous, and because of that, quote unquote, flirted with one of his friends. But I'm not 100% sure. Please inform yourself if you want to know for sure if that is correct. And that is also something where I have to say, it's good that the other band members kicked her out or she left on her own. I don't know. And that's also something where I can say I would be able to keep on following the music of the band, because that is the band. I think the band didn't know about that. I don't think that they've been kind of involved, which I doubt when there are a lot of cases coming up when I think, okay, well, how were you not able to notice that? But in this case, this is only one time she did that, and maybe the others really didn't know about that, and they reacted in that minute they found out about that. And so I would say, okay, yes, I can still listen to the band.
Yeah, this is also a case I would say this is possible because, yeah, like you said, the others didn't know about it and they reacted very fastly. So, I think you everyone should be able to make some mistakes, right? And if this happens, you have to go with the consequences. And if this is the consequence for the band, then it's absolutely fine. And I think they have to figure out what they want to deal and what they want to do about it. And if they did this decision, which is absolutely right in my point of view, then it's absolutely fine to follow them and to continue listening.
Yeah, and I also think that is part of the issue, that I think all the whole cancel culture has had the effect of putting some kind of pressure on both the people around, in this case the band, right, or the people who are working with the person accused
Yeah.
of of a certain crime, and on the quote unquote perpetrator themselves, because in our super fast communication age, it is really or apparently very necessary to react super quickly, also to prevent more shitstorms or heavier shitstorms. And I do think that the band maybe just wanted to stay away from the consequences that still having a member in the band who's been accused of things might have on the others or on them as a band. And so in order to protect themselves, they just fired her really quickly, maybe not even looking into what actually had happened, maybe not even asking her first, or to clear things up with her. I don't exactly know, but it did feel like a very fast reaction, which she also accepted and moved on. And so that was part of the shock, though, because she was gone from 1 minute to the next, and we didn't even really get to see if it was actually, true or whatever. So that is part of this whole discussion as well, right? I don't think that as fans we have to decide that quickly, though. As I said, we have the right to have this whole thought process of, do I still want to listen to this music because the person who made it um, has maybe committed a crime or done mistakes, or however the gravity might be, maybe more some are worse than others. And that is exactly what our topic is right now. We went into the details a little bit of some of the cases that have been closer to us, but I would like to ask ourselves now, how we would do that. How can we really separate the art from the artist if we decide to?
That's a good question. Yeah.
That's a really good question. I think for me, it depends on what is the person doing, and if there is something heavy, like the as I lie dying example, I would quit with it. I cannot separate. But I think for like the ghost inside example, um, I think we are humans and we should be able to make mistakes, like I said before, because no one is perfect and no one is doing a perfect job. And so if they are going with the consequences, if they are able to apologize, if there is something, I can go with it. But the separation thing is not so easy. I think on the one hand you can say, okay, this is from the side of the musicians, it's a good song. It is something which is really great, which is very well produced and so on. You can say that this is a great song, but for me, it's still the thing that I will not getting deeper into it. If it's playing somewhere, it's okay for me, but the separating thing, yeah, I don't think so. I'm not able to do this in the heavy things.
Me neither, now that I think about it, because, well, what I could do if I would have to arrange with something, then I could say, okay, I don't support a band actively, but still listen to the music. But it would always be in my mind. For example, or a very, very famous example, Michael Jackson. Every time his music is played, I like the music, I like listening to it, but I always have to think about what he did besides music. And so I can't really enjoy that 100% anymore. And that would always be the case with these really heavy cases. Mm, I also listened to, now they're called Electric Callboy, and they had in their past also lyrics where they had the topic of rape, but
Yeah, that's true.
they moved on from that. They learned from that. They just recently apologized for that, took some of that, or took that songs off from the streaming platforms. And they also had a name where they were accused for being racist, and they changed that name. So they also moved on. And there, for me, it is possible to completely enjoy the music now, because of this change. Yeah, and also that they did not do something themselves, so to speak. So they made a song that was really not cool, and they had a name that was not so cool. But they didn't cross the thick line for me. And there I can separate that. But I think I couldn't do that either completely.
I find it very interesting now that you spoke about Michael Jackson. Also, to consider dead artists or big cultural figures that lived ages ago. And I was just out for lunch with a friend of mine who is an opera singer. And I told her about this episode of the podcast and the topic. And because she was talking about not really enjoying, not always enjoying performing Wagner because of his connections to the Nazis back in the day. And I can totally understand that. He is dead, though. And his music was so important for music in general. And I am not sure about his family line. If if still attending a Wagner opera performance is somehow financially benefiting his grandkids and grandkids, and and if that would make me feel bad about it. But that happens in other areas too, and well, that is also one thing with the dead artists that I think would or could be easier to separate from the creations that they have brought to the world. But she also, my friend also opened up the or brought my attention to the one of the biggest cancel or not cancel culture. Well, she hasn't been canceled, but the author of Harry Potter, whose name shall not be said, she shall not be named, is very, very openly transphobic and racist as well, if I remember correctly. I am not a big Harry Potter fan, and I haven't really looked into this thing too much, but I do find it interesting how the whole Harry Potter fan community has very actively and very vocally done that separation kind of already. You know, they are very critical still of
Yeah.
the work and of all the topics that come up in these books, while they still celebrate the characters that they like and that they find redeemable and that they have grown to love even. So I do think that is that is actually really interesting, and they do say things like, okay, we are fans of these books, but we, if I want to read it again, I won't buy or if they owned the books before they learned how transphobic and discriminatory her behavior is, they won't buy new editions, or they won't necessarily go to a new movie based on her work or stuff like that, or in any way like support her financially or put her in this position of power. On the other hand, she hasn't really been cancelled.
There is a series now, right, about some other Harry Potter story.
I have no idea. I just saw, I think, a trailer of a new Dumbledore movie or show. I have no idea. But
Yeah.
but yeah, like some of the most woke fans have been able to go through that process of, still enjoying these characters and these stories while not paying attention to the awful things that she puts out, which is, as you were saying before, Pia, she is quote unquote just making discriminatory comments out there, but she has a huge platform and so many people listen to her. So it is a lot of responsibility that comes with such a huge audience, and to know that and still be a fan of hers as a person, as a writer. I don't agree with that. I wouldn't support that at all. But I do have friends who are big fans of the Harry Potter series and consciously decide not to pay attention to her or to anything new that she might bring out, because they know how problematic she is.
On the Harry Potter topic, I think it's very interesting because I think I have to revise my further comment a little bit, because I said it would not be possible. But yeah, I have not thought on this Harry Potter topic, and it's like I grew up with this books, with these films, and so on, and I think I will every time stand behind it, and the art behind it. But yeah, on this topic, on especially on the trans topic, um, I don't can connect with her. So this is not the opinion I want to get or to give to other people. So this is something I would not agree with. But yeah, there I can differentiate a bit the art versus the artist. It's right.
I think what is important here is that she never learned from that. So she still is transphobic. She still has this
Yeah, exactly.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we do not have the case that she apologized and said, yeah, I learned something from that. As you said, she's very famous, and Harry Potter has a very, very huge fan community. I also think in this, when you have so many people, when something is so popular, it's also important to have people within the fan base who are critical, who make this criticism from inside, so that there are not only people on the outside who say, "Oh, she's transphobic, I move away, I can't support her anymore," but that there are also people within this fan community who can, quote unquote, teach others to be aware of this, so that you at least can say, yes, I enjoy the books, the movies, everything. I enjoy the style of writing and stuff like that. But I also know about this problematic thing, and I separate that consciously, and I completely do not support this. And I always have this in mind, and um, always also talk about that when I talk about Harry Potter in this case.
Yes.
I think also this example was interesting, Pia, which you mentioned with Electric Callboy, because when I think back, when they released the first songs or the first EP, which they turned out
Of the
of the
platforms.
platforms, um, I was 18, I think. I was so young, and there it was quite normal to have lyrics like this,
Mhm.
like the all of these German rappers who are doing lyrics like this. So it was something special to have it also in metal, so it was funny. And I think I understood everything years behind. So for the in this time, I did never thought about it. And I think they have grown up as me grown up, and
Mhm.
they think more and more about these things. And this is so cool and important. And I really appreciate this, because if you are young, if you are yeah, young and dumb, you are doing mistakes. And if you are doing these, and you, like you said and mentioned, learn out of this and try to correct your mistakes and try to make things better, then I think you have the chance to to be promoted and supported in any ways.
Mm. And they could have turned away from that. They could have quit the band and started new or something, but
Yeah,
they stayed there, and they involved their fans in this process, and also
yeah,
educated them at some point about why they do this. So they were really they talked very openly about also the change of their band name. And there were
mm,
a lot of fans who were not supportive, who said, "Oh, I
yeah,
cannot listen to your music anymore, and why do you take off all these great songs?" And they didn't care about that. They were like, "No, we learned from that. This is not who we are right now, and
yeah,
we encourage you to also think about that and to also learn from that, or at least get the point that we make here."
yeah,
Yes. And so that is what we were talking about before, what we can do about, when we learn that the artist behind our beloved art, music, film, books, whatever it is, when we learn that the person that made it is not exactly the best human being, um, hold them accountable. I would say give them the chance to redeem themselves if you find what they
Mhm.
did is forgivable, but hold them accountable to it. And if they do this whole process of learning process and also apologize to the people they might have hurt, yeah, then it's still your decision if you will forgive those mistakes, or if you think that they have learned and changed. And otherwise, I found this cool blog post about the topic that I will also link in the description, that has a few interesting tips or advice about separating the art from the artist. And it starts with saying that people in a position to hire artists, and I think this is especially important for the music industry, people in a position to hire artists need to be the first ones to not separate the art from the artist in situations where they are still living and earning personal or professional and monetary profit from creating work. So if you are booking agent for a big festival and you know that there are, let's say, sexual assault allegations against a member of a band, you wouldn't put the people the crew, the fans, the people around this artist in danger by booking them for your festival, right?
Yeah.
Or even if it is people who are not physically abusive, but who spread, like all of the isms that we've been talking about, racism or transphobia, or all of the discriminatory awful things out there. You wouldn't give them a microphone to spread those ideas around. I wouldn't.
Yeah, me neither.
That is what happens now with the band Mental Cruelty. That's a deathcore band from Germany. And their vocalist has been assaulted to be a rapist and a sexual abuser. And they kicked him out of the band, but also many festivals now kick the band out of their lineup. And that I read a statement by Full Force Festival, who also had them on the lineup, and said, okay, we cannot support this and we don't want this band to play here anymore. And they put out a comment where they also said where people can go or where people can find help who have been sexually assaulted. And I commented under that post and asked them if they do something actively on their festival. And they answered me. That was really cool. They said, yes, we will inform about that also later on. We have people there who are trained or who will support the victims. And we will also inform that you can talk to every staff member on that festival. And when you ask, how do I come to Panama? They know what happened and they will help you immediately.
Yeah, this is
That's good.
something I see in the city more often now. In every bar or club I was in the last time, it was not so many because we have still the COVID situation. But in every local where I get in, there is on the women's restroom, like you told Pia, a paper where their code word is on, and you can go to the staff, you tell them that you're not feeling very well, and you get help. And this is something which I think is very, very good and supportive for women.
Especially, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and to go on with the article, it then has a few more pieces of advice for people who are not in this position to hire artists. And it says, just first of all, trust your gut, because you are the one who is maybe having this guilty feeling that I was talking about, or feeling a little uncomfortable when you are consuming a certain type of not type, but a certain artist's work or film, as we were talking. You shouldn't just ignore it if you all of a sudden don't like it anymore, because now you know more about the person behind it. Then you shouldn't also force yourself to keep liking it. And if you do want to continue consuming, I'm quoting this now, if you do want to continue consuming a problematic artist's art, find ways to do so that won't financially profit them. For example, check a book or a movie out of the library instead of buying it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and as you said, Pia, once as well, you would still listen to the music, for example, but you wouldn't like buy their merch anymore, or buy their more recent releases, or go to their concerts, or recommend the band or the artist to somebody else, to somebody new.
I wouldn't put them on a playlist and stuff like that, right? If I would not be able to cancel or to move away from that band, then I would listen in private and don't tell anybody about that.
Exactly.
I think that's what Ghost Kid, what Sushi, the former frontman of Electric Callboy, also said, because he has a Marilyn Manson tattoo. And he, in another podcast, I think it was Turbusgeflüster in Germany, they also talked about that. And he said that he wouldn't get another Marilyn Manson tattoo now that he knows what what the allegations are against Marilyn Manson, and also he does not show it in public, and he would not go there and say, "Hey, I'm so cool, I have a Marilyn Manson tattoo," and stuff like that. So that's the same thing, that you don't spread the name, so to speak, of that band or artist or whatever.
Yeah. Because we have said this before in a completely different context when talking about a band's or an artist's merch. You are becoming, when you're wearing a band t-shirt, you are becoming kind of a walking billboard for that person. You are doing advertisement, free advertisement for that person and or for that
Yeah.
band and whatever they stand for. So while it is a good thing to financially support the bands that you like as well, you are also financing, the lives of those people. And while in this shitty capitalist world, we all need money to survive, or artists who have, as it says also in the article, their work is maybe allowing them to perpetrate more abuse.
Yeah, and I think the more famous someone becomes, that's a kind of evil spiral where you come to situations where you are able to abuse someone, so to speak, and where people are less willingly to kick you off of a lineup. So, as I said, Mental Cruelty were kicked out of festivals, but what if that would have been the headliner? I don't know if they would have kicked them
Mm,
out then.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, good question.
So I think the more famous you become, the easier you can do these things, and the more complicated it becomes for others to separate from you.
Mm, yeah,
Yes,
agree.
that is very good. I do want to mention it once again. I mentioned it very shortly as a teaser for this episode in the past episode. This new band that was recommended to me, Skinned, is kind of a true crime metal project.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It is led by a woman, if I understand correctly. They are everywhere on festival lineups this year, and I would love to see her. And the problematic thing about her musical project was that every song has a different serial killer, or portrays a story of a different serial killer. And there is this kind of dark side to true crime, which has, I mean, the community around true crime has, or the fan base has grown so much in the recent years, or maybe it was there already before, but I hadn't paid attention to it. I'm not a big fan of true crime. I listened to one podcast about it. But otherwise, yeah, I'm not too much into it. And the I mean, although the stories are somehow interesting, more so to some people, obviously to the fans, which is fine, having interests and hobbies is always fine. But the dark side, or the danger of telling true crime stories to such vast audiences, is that there are people out there who start to idolize these criminals and
Yeah.
might want to do crimes either in their honor, or just with the purpose of becoming as famous as these serial killers became,
Mm,
right? So there might be new criminals being inspired by these stories. And while I do think that that is pretty dangerous, and we should never idolize and never celebrate these awful, awful human beings, I do think that sometimes a lot of good art comes from these very dark places.
Mm.
And in the case of the music project I was mentioning, Skinned, I really like it.
Mm.
In that moment, it's less about separating the art from the artist, but this time it's about separating the art from its inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird.
Yeah, I think it also depends on how they deal with the topic. So, do they celebrate these murderers, or are they critical, or do they have a disclaimer or something? Because I remember a music video by the band One Morning Left. And in this video, the band was beaten up by a group of women. And they, in the end, they have this, or there is written on the screen that violence is never an answer or should never be something that you do to others. So they also had this in their music video, and it looked kind of funny. But in the end, they said, you should not do this. And I don't know if the band that you just mentioned is critical about the stuff that they have in their lyrics. That would be important to me.
That is true. And I haven't been following them for a very long time, but they did put out a statement about the war that's going on right now with Ukraine. And said, I'm reading this off their Instagram right now. I feel like I have made this clear, but in case I didn't, I sing about crime, but I do not support violence or war in any form. And then they go on to say, well, we are heartbroken to see the war in Ukraine. And that is obviously a different topic that we also talked about in the last episode. But yeah, I think apparently there has been this disclaimer. But that's what I mean. This time, in this specific case, the artist is not the problematic agent person here.
Yeah.
But the inspiration they draw from.
The problematic thing is that these cases are real cases because, I mean, we listen to metal. Look at the lyrics. There is tons of violence also in the lyrics of the bands that we are listening to, one kind or another. So, yeah, as you just said, the difficult thing is that people might get inspiration because these cases are real cases, because the victims are out there, the murderers are out there, or have been. If they're not alive anymore, they're not out there anymore. But yeah, they have been real, and that's a difference. Or that's a difference for me.
Yes.
Yeah. It is, and the problem is also when young people are coming to this music, they get inspired by their inspiration. I don't know if you have seen it, but TikTok, I think, and there's a new trend out there to where young boys are telling about their wishes to rape women or to murder
Ew.
them and so on. And we had also in our friend circle a discussion about this because this platform has a very bright reach, and the young people are getting inspired there, and there I think someone which is maybe not mental healthy could take it too serious and get inspired by this or something like this. And it's so dangerous, and I don't understand why the platforms don't restrict these behavior or these trends even more, because it's very dangerous when someone is maybe not healthy or something, sees it. It could be an inspiration, and this is like also for the lyrics of inspired by murderer, and I think this have to be watched out, and to make them responsible for the people who are following them.
Yes.
Agree.
It's super funny that you mentioned that, though, because just today I was listening to an episode of the Reply All podcast. The episode is called The Devious Lick. And they talked about this trend and even challenge on TikTok
Yeah.
that was about stealing stuff from school. And a lot of schools in the US had just, lots of cases of vandalism
Mm,
and kids stealing things, and that apparently escalated even into cases of assault, because one of the other challenges was something about slapping teachers or stupid
yeah,
shit like that.
yeah.
But as far as the research for the episode went, TikTok had taken measures and had actually banned the hashtag and pulled out all of the content that contained any of these challenges, and we're monitoring how these trends were escalating. Um, so that actually surprised me, because I know that other platforms like Twitter have no handle whatsoever on what trolls post out
Mm,
there. And so I thought that was actually pretty interesting. But again, that comes back to what we were saying at some point. Some kind of, if it's art, we might need some kind of disclaimer. If it's if it's old art or movies or theater,
mm,
opera, whatever it is, depending on how old we are as well, we might, I don't know, need to, if it's aimed at kids or if it's open for kids, then their guardians should be able to have discussions with them that are critical and that make them learn from those things instead of blindly following trends or examples. That takes me back to the very, very first episode of this podcast, which back then was the very first episode of the Mental and High Heels podcast, back in
mhm.
May in 2017, when we were talking about mental health with Cassandra Novell from Mercy Isle. And we were talking about watching
30 Reasons Why.
13 Reasons Why. Thank you. I knew the number, but I forgot the rest. 13 Reasons Why, which is this Netflix show around teenage suicide. And it
Mm,
was really, really hard to watch for me as an adult woman. And while it was kind of made for a teenage audience, we were saying, well, it's not necessarily bad that it's out there, because we should talk about mental health and we should talk about suicide openly,
mhm,
but always with the with this knowledge of there's always help out there. You should always be able and or feel comfortable enough to reach out for help, for professional help as well, and so that it doesn't come to that extreme. But that means, you need this guidance as an adult. You need this knowledge or common sense or maturity, I don't know. But for teenagers it's also really important, or for kids it's also really important that they have um, just the guidance to process the entertainment or art or whatever that they are consuming in a constructive way, maybe.
yeah.
I think that's a good advice or a good statement to end this episode with. But if you out there, I would be interested how you do this. Can you separate the art from the artist? Have you stopped listening to bands or artists after there was an accusation or even something that was turned out true? Yeah, let us know your opinion on this. And now let's talk about something good. Let's talk about music a bit more. What music have you been listening to lately?
I'm a bit stuck at the moment into my playlist circle, I think. So I have a huge playlist where is everything from every genre inside. So I'm very not listening only to metal. So I have much interest in this. So there is something like The Chemists inside, which is mixed a bit with electrical and some punk pop voices and also some screaming and shouting. I really like them. Of course, Electric Callboy is in there, and yeah, some songs from Beartooth and yeah, Architects. I really love them. So it's a very well mixture.
Nice. What about you, Pia?
Since April 1st, I hear on repeat the new Windrunner album, which is called Tan. And
Ooh.
Windrunner is a band from Vietnam. They have a lineup change. They had a lineup change. They have a new singer now, and they focus on her voice a lot. And at first, I really liked the former singer. I was a bit skeptical, but now I can really appreciate her voice and how it fits into the music and how the music is basically built around her voice. And a week before that, there was a new release from Animals as Bleeders, which was called Parhesia. And I've been listening to that for a week, and then the Windrunner album came out. So, but these are the two new releases that I like a lot at the moment.
Ooh, nice.
What are you listening to, Kiki?
I haven't been listening to anything new, to be honest. I went back to the latest Epica album and to some bands from Ecuador that I hadn't listened in a while. And I've been listening to lots of podcasts, as you could hear. I'm still catching up on my podcasts. I'm right now in January of this year because there are just so many that I listen to. I'm 3 months behind.
I can recommend one that is called Not Your Little Lady. I found that one because they also had Dr. Anna S. Rogers as a guest, who has also been guest on this podcast, and they also talked with her about her book Doing Gender in Heavy Metal. And they have a lot of cool other episodes out there. It's a feministic podcast, and I think I will catch up with some of the older episodes as well.
Cool.
I can't subscribe to another podcast.
Okay.
I just realized that my phone had stopped downloading some of them because I hadn't listened to them in a while.
Oh.
And then I missed episodes. So I had to actively go into the things and download the ones I still wanted to listen to. That was a little bit annoying. But well.
Jenny, where can people find you on social media, especially when they are looking for a new badass vocalist?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. My name is a bit special, Cthulhu's13. It's a bit difficult to spell, CTHULHUS 13. Yeah, and if you want, you can catch up.
Yeah.
And you can find this podcast also on Instagram, Bleeding Metal Pod. I think that's the only social platform where we are at the moment. And of course, you can listen to this podcast in almost every podcatcher. If you know a podcatcher where we are not available, let us know, then we might be able to change that.
Yes, we're still on Twitter. I still post on Twitter.
Okay.
Yes. But also don't forget to follow the Bleeding Metal podcast on Spotify and Stitcher, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to right now. Recommend us to your friends, and hear you next month.
Yes, thank you for listening. And Jenny, thank you for having been our guest. It was really cool talking to you about this topic and to also learn about your opinion on this. And yes, I hope you also enjoyed chatting with us.
Of course. Thank you very much for the invitation. I enjoyed it. And yeah, and I learned a lot of me and my opinion on that because yeah, I never thought about this so directly with other people. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, that's really nice. Yes, and for all you German speakers out there, you can catch Jenny and Pia and other awesome women in metal sometimes on Instagram Live Conversations von Batman bis Meerjungfrau.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
Yes, give that
Thank you.
account a follow. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.